May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Please be seated or hop back in bed. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. From the 23rd Psalm that we just read, that's verse 4. It will be our verse of the week, which you'll have a little card for, hopefully, that you received by email or is found on our website. But such a clear and profound statement of faith in the worst of times, in the most difficult of troubles, in times when we're anxious and we're scared or fearful in a global pandemic. Even the word pandemic has panic in it. And in a time where life itself seems turned upside down, we're not sure where to go or what to do. We're not positive when these radical changes will end, if ever. We worry with every sniffle or every cough. If we're out at the store and someone nearby coughs, we scoot past a few more feet. If someone we know and love happens to sneeze, don't we feel a catch in our own throat or a heaviness in our own heart? Life is not easy. To be a follower of Jesus, we're never promised easy times. It's never puppies and roses and sunshine, as I tend to say. But the way of Christ is the way of a cross. And he takes this life seriously because he experienced it himself seriously and truthfully and fully. And he knows life is hard. Life can be scary. Life can make you want to panic. There are real shadows out there and real valleys that seem very deep and very dark. Some are so deep and so dark, it's as though they were the shadow of death itself. And sometimes, in different circumstances, for different reasons, we feel like we are walking in those deep, dark valleys. We are surrounded by deep, dark shadows. What will we do? Even David in the Psalms writes, I will not fear the evil of that deep, dark valley. For I know, O Lord, that you are with me. You are strong and you are good. You have not abandoned me, and I am not alone. You are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I know that your strength and your power stands side by side with me, no matter how deep I go, no matter how dark it gets. And I think that is a verse of this week, if not a verse of maybe these next few weeks. But when I thought about it, what interested me a little bit today was the verse that actually leads to that. Verse 3, leading into that valley of the shadow of death, we're reminded that he restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even in a valley that is deep and dark and fills us with dread, God restores our souls. He restores our souls. And I wish we could be together this morning. I wish it was a normal Sunday and a normal week. I wish we were looking forward to our normal plans for Lent and Holy Week and a joyous Easter. I wish my kids were having spring break tomorrow. But we're in a valley, and it's a little shadowy. But even through God's comfort and strength, even with his power of his rod and his staff, even in this time, it is the desire of God to restore your soul and to restore mine as well. Be reminded of one of the verses of the song that we open the service with. Fear not, I am with thee. Oh, be not dismayed, for I am thy God and will still give thee aid. I'll strengthen thee, help thee, and cause thee to stand, upheld by my righteous, omnipotent hand. The holiness and the righteousness of God lifting us up even when we feel so bowed low, offering us strength when we feel weak, and help when we need aid, and restoring our souls. To that same hymn, a few verses later, we'll finish with a comment about our dross to consume and our gold to refine, that's sort of the purpose in times where God leads us through some difficult times, some deep and dark valleys. Dross, the impurities within the gold that under heat within the crucible rise up to the top so they can be skimmed and scooped off, that what's left behind is pure and precious. The refining of the gold of our hearts is the restoration of our souls. And sometimes it takes some heat. And sometimes it might even take fire. And the crummy stuff and the cruddy stuff and the impurities and the dross, maybe they rise to the surface, but they are coming to the surface so they might be removed. And what the Lord leaves behind for us and for Him, that within us is precious. It is holy. And it is like pure gold. Rabbi, the disciples asked when they saw the man born blind, who sinned? Whose fault is it? Who messed up? Who did something so bad that the consequences is this man's disability? And Jesus says it's not about sin. This man didn't sin. He is not paying for consequences. His parents didn't sin. Their son is not paying for the consequences of their actions. Instead, what you see as a consequence, it is an opportunity. And it is a moment of hope. And it is a moment of power. This man is the way that he is in this moment and this place, Jesus says, so that the works of God might be manifest in him. This is not a consequence for sin. This is the power of God that is going to change this man's life forever. This is the power of God that will change the disciples once they see it happen. This is the power of God that's going to touch and impact every life that this formerly blind man comes in contact with. No matter how many times he tells the story, no matter how many people see him and say, but wait a second, weren't you blind? You were blind all your life. What in the world has happened? This is the power of God that's going to radiate out from this moment, because it's going to radiate out from this man. And it will do so not just for his life, but it echoes now 2,000 years after the fact. The works of God displayed. The power of God manifest. Even in a time of difficulty, of suffering, of sorrow. Not a consequence for sin, this man's blindness, but a chance for a miracle. And there's a gift even in this time. As our dross is consumed by the heat, as the busyness of daily life that we thought there's no way this will ever end, until it does. And how many things, how many priorities, how many calendar appointments have now been removed one by one until there's almost nothing left. Things that we counted on, things that we dreaded, things that we were frustrated by, things that we were looking forward to. Just things and things and things and things, and they've been stripped down. They've been pared away, and less seems to be available on any given day. We are receiving, I think, a hard blessing, but a blessing nonetheless, and a gift of priority. Kind of seeing, now that you're isolated, now that you're distant socially, what do you really need? What really matters? What do you really count on? What can you not do without? Imagine back just a couple of weeks ago. Even 3 weeks ago seemed like a completely different world. All of the things that our lives seem so filled with, so crammed into. And now, it's different, isn't it? Our priorities seem much simpler. And they seem much more clear. Family, health, an opportunity for worship. I mean, really, who would have guessed? But what happens when this is done? For it will be, this too shall pass. The busyness, the extra things, the things that we have learned to do without start coming back in. Will we see them the same way? Will we take some of these burdens with the same sense of frustration? Or who's going to be glad to get back to work? Who's going to be hopeful to be back in school? Who's going to feel relieved that there are errands to do? There is business to take care of, people to see, times to meet. Even the simple things of life restored as the gift of God that they truly are and no longer taken for granted. I won't say that this isn't a difficult time, because it is. But I believe the promises of God. What He's offered in Holy Scripture and what He gives to us right here, right now, and today. No matter how deep and dark the valley, no matter how deep and dark the shadow, no matter how hard or frightening, no matter how anxious or worried circumstances push us to be, He can and will restore your soul. He can and will stand with us all with a rod of power and a staff of comfort. And maybe, just maybe, this circumstance, not a consequence of sin, but instead that the works of God might be manifest in this world and in us. For the soul that to Jesus hath fled for repose, I will not desert to its foes. That soul, though all hell shall endeavor to shake, I'll never, no, never forsake.